Okay, so conduits and raceways today. What's a raceway? Well, a raceway is a pretty much way for the wire. So it could be in the form of tray, it could be in the form of pipe or conduit, it could be in the form of anything that is designed to enclose or guide wires in some ways. Okay, so first we have something that's called a rigid or metal conduit, RMC. Right now, some of us during the labs were able to bend the conduit, and I would say, please give me a bundle of the EMT, which is electrical metallic tubing, which is right beside the rigid. Don't get the rigid conduit, get the EMT. So this is what EMT looks like. It's a little bit thicker and more rigid than the EMT, which is electrical metallic tubing, and the diameter that we have to practice with is the 1/2 inch, which is the thinnest one. And they go a little bit up in diameter as well. All right, so because it's more rigid, it is actually also harder to bend. All right, then well, that's about it. And well, you can see here there are couplings that are threaded inside, and the rigid metal conduit can be also cut to length, and you can use those threading machines, which we are not going to play with this semester. Maybe, I'm not sure what the curriculum is for your next class. Are you going to use some of the pipe threaders to do that or not? If not, I would encourage you to research that on your own and ask questions, all right? In order to put the thread on the ends of that. Some of that, if you require a little bit more sealing, not sealing as far as the top wall above your head or placed horizontally, but I'm talking about sealing as the sealant of sealing things from other ways, like airtight or watertight. All right. I'm not sure if you can get really airtight sealed RMC, but if you require a little bit more watertight, then this would be the thing to go with. All right. All right, then we go into something that's called the electrical metallic tubing, and this is the pipe that we will be playing with, and some of us already had a chance to do some basic bends. What we're going to do is we're going to produce a box offset at both ends of a pipe, and those two box offsets have to be aligned, and we will be talking about the types of bends, well, tomorrow, right? So what do we have here? We have the electrical metallic tubing. It's also called a tin wall because of the thickness of this material right here. It's thin, right? Comparing to something else that maybe was used before, was thick. All right, so it's a steel tubing, and with that one you have different connectors. Like for example, on this one to the right, in the middle, actually here, is called a coupler. So it's EMT coupler. We insert that pipe from both ends. The pipe usually comes in sections of 10 feet. Because it's, well, relatively easier to transport. Longer sections are not that uncommon. However, the most common bulk section type of packaging is in the sections of 10 feet. Now, if you have a long wall in some production hall and you need to install the EMT, then of course it's going to take more than 10 feet to run that raceway. So in that case, you would be using couplers, and those couplers, these are the set screw couplers. So you just put the pipe at both ends and tighten the set screws on that. Now, before I continue with, since we stopped on the coupler here, also it's not very uncommon situation that you'll be asked to use the EMT for other things than just running electrical wires. Like for example, very popular thing is, especially in the commercial, in a warehouse, commercial setting, in the warehouse, somewhere in a warehouse or in a back room of some storage room. Sometimes you'll be asked to mount the security cameras using the EMT and some of the couplers. So what happens is you mount that thing somewhere in the red bar. Or the red iron. It's called red iron ceiling. It's those triangular type of construction contraptions that are in the ceiling, popularly called red iron. You all know what I mean. And sometimes you'll be mounting this onto the red iron using whatever means you can safely accomplish. And then if you need to lower the camera, because sometimes those ceilings are high, so sometimes you will be asked to use a couple of those EMT tubings, and maybe you'll be use one whole one and then cut the other one maybe a little bit shorter to accomplish the proper camera height, so you can accomplish the proper angle, the viewing angle. So sometimes people are going to ask you to use the coupler. So you will have a long 10-foot section on top, put that in, put the set screw, and then you will have something on the bottom there as well, a little bit less, or maybe the whole thing again. And you would tighten the set screw on the bottom. Here's the problem with this, right? And there's a bit of, I'll give you a problem, I'll give you the solution. These couplers and this whole system is not meant for holding weight. This is just for proper alignment. Usually it's being mounted in a horizontal way or vertically. However, if it's mounted vertically, it's on the wall and the pipe would be fastened to the wall using different clamps or whatnot. So this coupling here is not going to hold the weight of the pipe that goes down. Now, when you're installing a security camera, you'll be having this thing not against the wall, be hanging somewhere, 2/3 or in the room or whatever. It's going to be in the middle of the room. And sometimes people just tighten the set screw, run the wire, there you go. You're running a danger of this way. You're running, putting people in danger of getting hit by the camera, because those are not meant to hold the weight. These, again, I'm repeating that, it's just for alignment and the aesthetics of installation and that type of functionality. So if you ever do that, do some extra steps, right? Once you mount the set, because these set screws, they can become undone as time goes by. Right? There's train goes by a million times. There's all kinds of vibratory type of situations. These are not meant to hold the weight in a permanent situation like that. So what I would do is, if you ever have that situation, put the pipe in, set the screw, drill a hole right here, and you're going to drill a hole through the coupling and through the pipe that's installed. And then I just use sometimes called a piano wire, or sometimes it's called aircraft cable, or sometimes it's called steel wire. Just thread that through and put the coupling, make a loop on this side here, make a loop on this side here. This way, if anything happens, if anything lets go, you're secured by those connections or the loops of the, so that's usually the cameras should come with proper equipment and paraphernalia. However, you're going to find yourself in situations that people want to save money and that is going to be the solution or the way of doing things imposed on you, right? But you can't use that as an excuse that if something happens, and you can just say, oh, well, I was told that from above to use it that way, so there you go, I did it, right? Well, that person can get in trouble, but also you can get in trouble if something happens, simply because, well, you're the lowest on the totem pole. And you know what happens if there's something. My old favorite saying is, nothing happens until something happens. You could install something not quite 100% correctly, and it could work for 100 years and no problem, or something can happen the very next day, right? And when that happens, then all kinds of things fly and hit the fan, and I can almost guarantee you that that people who are above you, when the office, or not the office, but supervisors or whatnot, they will try. It's things will be look like it's your fault. All right, it's always going to be your fault. So secure yourself with this. All right, I'm just trying to be tactful when I'm saying this kind of stuff here, right? Because I know I'm being recorded here. I'm recording myself. But well, talk to me in person if you want. If you want me to clarify what I'm saying right now. There's also that unspoken rule, or sometimes spoken rule. You're the one. You're going to be the last person who touched that thing, and you're going to be the last person that has, well, installed this type of contraption. And just as a side note, yes, you can refuse some work that when if you feel that, and I heard the word "feel" because it's not a very technical term, but if you see that something is unsafe, yes, you have the right to refuse. And if you motivate that based on safety, then well, you should not get in trouble, right? You will get in trouble if you do something unsafe and then something happens, right? And it's going to be your fault, no matter what you were told by whomever. It is going to be your fault. Have I refused some work in the past? Yes, I have. Because some people who are project coordinators or office managers or salespeople who are going to be asking you to do certain things, they are good at what they do, and they do that job well. However, if it comes to some sort of a technical aspect like this, you are the last person who has touched this thing. You are the last person who has worked on it, and if something happens, it will be your fault, right? And then you're going to have to prove that it wasn't. Right? So yeah, I have refused some work based on that. Now, by the same token, if somebody doesn't know what they're doing and they just don't want to do the job, and they're going to say, "Oh, because I don't want to do this because it's unsafe," well, it actually has to be true, right? Not just try to get out of doing some sort of job and say that it's not safe. It actually has to be not safe for you to refuse work. Right? Now, here's another connector. This is a EMT connector for, well, for the half-inch knockouts. There are other connectors that would accommodate the 3/4 inch of a knockout, and we have already played with some of the knockouts on the utility boxes, for example, that we did. All right, so here's the EMT connector that accommodates half-inch knockout on the box. Here's a coupler, and here is the EMT itself. Where am I? Here. All right. There's also some non-metallic conduits, and here's some examples of that. And of course, well, these are usually when installed, well, inside. However, there are some outdoor rated equipment as well These provide you with a little bit of a flexibility when you need that. All right, now notice these here, all this stuff that we're looking at, this thing, most of the time they're going to be used in the commercial setting. Residential, yeah, also in the residential, but you would not have something like that installed in the wall, running on top of the wall in the living room, right? You could have something like that installed within the drywall and covered by the drywall, but quite often in a commercial setting, in warehouses, production halls, those are just exposed. Just take a look around next time you're in the lab. We have tons of that installed there. You walk by maybe those things a million times and never notice them because they're just part of the landscape. However, just take a look and see how is it that this thing was installed, because this thing just didn't grow on the wall. Somebody had to make it look like it's part of the skin of the building. And it does take some skill to install that stuff, right? Now, when it requires some flexibility, it is possible to use some PVC and flexible type of a situation. Yes, you can run electrical wires and other wires as well through that, but now we're talking about electrical wires here, right? And usually when these are being sold, they're being sold by certain manufacturer or whatnot in the section. So I would encourage you to go to some sort of hardware store and take a look at some of the electrical section, and you can do, once you're there, you're going to see a bunch of conduits and raceways, and you're going to see the PVC, you're going to see the metallic conduit, you're going to see all kinds of things, but also take a look at some of the connectors, because when these are being sold, they're also being sold accommodated with the certain connectors, and they do accommodate standard knockout sizes. Okay? High flexible conduit. Well, as opposed to sort of flexible, there's also high flexibility conduit. And sometimes, these you would see in some of installed mostly on buildings. And if you need a little bit more, or walls or whatnot, if you need a little more flexibility, if you're in industrial electrical field, when you have to connect machines, provide service or power to electrical machines, all kinds of sort, well, not just electrical machines, but machines that use electricity to be powered. Well, I don't think you can see any steam engine machines anymore. So this is going to be this is going to be one of your best friends, that's high flexibility conduit, and it's also going to be accompanied with whatever certain connectors. And if you want to get a proper connector for that, just go to the store and see what they have to offer as far as connectivity. Right? PVC conduit. Well, we're going to be bending, during this semester, we're going to perform a simple bend called a box offset. A box offset is an offset bend, which we will study very soon, actually tomorrow. It's a type of a bend. All right. Now, a box offset is a specific type of offset that accommodates the offset of the height in the utility box. We'll talk about that later, a little bit more tomorrow. And we will do some basic bends, just enough to get you started, just enough for you to break your sweat doing that, and just enough to be introduced to the type of challenge and motions that are associated with overcoming those challenges and becoming good at what you do, right? So we will be bending some EMT, which is electrical metallic tubing. Next semester, you're going to be bending more of that, but also you'll be introduced to bending the PVC conduit, and the procedure is very similar but different. Right? It's a very you can use the same equipment almost for the most part. You can use the same equipment to bend the PVC piping, but the procedure is slightly different because you're going to have to find a way to heat this up to make it more ductile or playable, so you can bend this thing instead of breaking it. Metal tubing, you just bend. You don't need to heat it up. You don't need to warm it up. PVC, when you need to bend that, you need to warm it up, and there are different gadgets and paraphernalia that goes with it in order to make our lives easier. And there's some, well, I'm not sure if it's going to be Mr. Hamilton or somebody else doing that next semester thing. I think it's called practical installations. You'll be bending as well the PVC conduit. They also come with different sizes. Don't come with different shapes because, well, it has to be cylindrical, right? Can't have a shape. Now, excuse me. PVC also comes with different type of paraphernalia that's associated with that. You can buy well, stubs or right angle bands or T type of junctions and fasteners and whatnot, depending on what company sells it, where you can find it. Usually when you see these, you're going to see a whole section of other things to make your life easier in order to do things fast. Because, well, when you do the work, what matters? Well, efficiency, safety, speed, right? So those three have to be married in some sort of healthy way in order for you to do the job properly and get paid for it. So sometimes you're going to bend this using the pipe bender and heat it up, but that might take a little bit more time. If you have a more complex installation situation, then you can actually go and get bunch of these and different type of gadgets that go with it to make your life easier. So you don't have to bend. So you could use couplers or stubs or well, it comes also with boxes as well, right? And other things. So these go always in pairs, right? I'm not trying to stretch that thing, but all right. Flexible metal conduit. When things, well, I showed you this here when it comes to connecting electrical machines. If you're an electrician, connecting or providing service to machines in like industrial machines, right? So is this here. That is also, you're going to see that a lot in that kind of situation. And when you need to, when some of the machines or the installation is going to be susceptible or exposed to some possibility of some physical damage, all right? Also, these you need to make sure that if you're running like a buried cable, if you bury the cable underground, you need to make sure if you use any of those, you need to make sure that or outside, you need to be UV rated if it's exposed, or it has to be direct burial rated when it comes to burying this thing in ground. You can also get something that's called a direct burial cable, for which you don't need any of the raceway. You can just you can just dig a trench that has to be deep enough, and it will have to do with the deep freeze depth in your area. I think where we are here, is it 4 feet, something less than 4 feet. Or is it 2 feet? I forgot. You have to find, because different parts of the world, the deep freeze. In some parts of the world, there is no freeze. Right? And also notice that I'm showing these piping here, and I'm also showing that they also come with different types of connectors. We're going to play with armored cable, which is going to be very, well, similar idea to that. Our last lab is going to be connecting an armored cable into the utility box, and of course, as always, we're going to terminate something there. Right? All right, strut type, channel raceway. Raceway, as I said in the beginning, is a, well, way for the wire. Now, strut types of raceways, you're going to see a lot. You can actually see that in our school, in our classrooms, in our labs, where the countertops are involved and whatnot. B1007, 1009, classic example of using that type of raceway. That thing is all over. So notice one thing here. Usually those raceways are with the divider. Yeah. Now, there's one common cover for the aesthetical or aesthetic purposes, for the purpose of aesthetics. There you go. But what's happening inside? This thing is divided. What do we have inside this raceway? We have a section designated for the electrical wiring, and we also have a section designated for different type of cables. Well, usually communications, and usually it is going to be a data. What do we see here? In this one, we see one that looks like 25 pair cable, and well, this looks like a fiber optic or optical fiber cable. Usually those run in with additional protection, but if somebody knows what they're doing, and it takes a little bit more time, you can install that in this type of a raceway. I would be sitting on the fence whether to run optical fiber in this type of raceway. I would just try to provide, but sometimes you just have no choice, and that's what you have to do, and you just have to be really extra careful of how you install this type of fiber optic, because fiber optics can be, well, can be fragile. Right? So you have a divider, and you have electrical section and whatever else section. Quite often it's going to be Cat5e, Cat6, used for data or phone communications. So that's the raceway. Now those also come in. Well, here's an example of that. Right? Here's a countertop, and here's the raceway that's wall mounted. Sometimes the raceway goes down the wall, and sometimes it goes up if you can't run the wire inside the wall. And you're going to have different gadgets and whatnot in order to accommodate whatever situation you have. This one here has electrical section much wider than that one, all right? But you can see here, this bottom part is reserved for data wiring, and that's where all the data cables go in. And the top part here, you can see a duplex receptacle. So obviously this top part is reserved for the electrical wiring. Take a look around in our classrooms, see if you can notice that type of stuff, and think about how this thing would be installed. I remember somebody saying to me that some additional equipment, and if you can look for, if you're serious about doing this type of job, well, laser level could be your best friend when it comes to installing this type of stuff. All right, cable trays, industrial environment. Cable trays come in sections. All right, here. There we go. Cable trays. It looks like a extension ladder or a straight ladder put in a horizontal, installed in a horizontal way. Cable trays are basically nomen omen, which is a Latin for the name describes the purpose. So cable tray is a tray for the cable. Right? You can buy sections of that and different companies sell those, and those sections you can assemble just like Lego. You see, when you were a kid, you had the pleasure of playing with the Lego blocks. Well, why do you think they wanted you to play with the Lego? So you have some sort of manual skills to do some of the real stuff, like this, for example. So this is the Lego for grown-ups. Here is some sort of a strut type of mounting here, and you have cable tray when some heavier cabling is involved. This thing can be used for, or it is used for electrical wiring, or also data wiring as well. Cable tray is being used. Now, you can buy those pre-made sections and assemble them. Sometimes you have to cut and trim a certain way, but they are so much better because sometimes what I'm getting at is sometimes your boss is going to ask you to buy, or he's going to provide you with a strut. So that's what the strut is. See that kind of like a C-shape type of or U-shape type of rod, metal rod, and some of them are perforated with a bunch of holes and stuff. We're gonna take a look at some of that as well, and they're going to ask you to make a cable tray out of that. Yes, it is made, so you can use threaded rods to mount this. But what happens here? Here's a situation, and I want you to understand and grasp the concept properly. It is a little bit more expensive to buy the pre-made cable tray because it is done. It's assembled. All you have to do, or it's pre-assembled, all you have to do is to choose the proper length. Sometimes you're going to have to cut and trim, and you install that. And usually you would install, here's the threaded rods. Right? We'll talk about some of that mounting as well. Yes, it does involve a little bit of work. Of course it does. Actually, it does involve a lot of work. It's a little bit more expensive than buying a bunch of strut sections and then cut them to pieces and make that cable tray out of the strut metal. Well, what is it, 6 or half a dozen the other, something like that, is that saying. Yes, this is less expensive to buy. Yes, this is more expensive to buy. You spend much less time assembling this. You spend much more time assembling this. So you gotta find what's your happy medium. Personally, I think this is much better way to go. Things do look more professional. Actually, you can make the strut look more professional, but it takes way more time to install this than the tray. So yeah, well, if you are working for some larger company and that's what they want you to do, just get a bunch of struts, then you know what? You get paid by the hour. You might make a light suggestion that this could be a better way to go, but sometimes if you make too many suggestions and too aggressively, then you're going to be put in your place. So just keep that in mind, right? Now, if you are doing your own project, if you are the boss, I want you to pay attention to this, what I'm saying right now. Yes, it takes a little bit more money, but it takes way less time to assemble and install this. So it actually could be cheaper to pay more money for that and spend less time, because the person hours are the hours per person are sometimes quite expensive, and sometimes you have two or three other projects on the go, right? So yeah, so here's a cable tray. Now here's something that's called a wireway. These are sections of enclosed raceway that could be assembled just like Lego as well, but they could be closed. Well, depending on the situation and the environment you're working with, you might have to install things one way or the other. I remember in one of the hospitals in Toronto when we installed a bunch of data wires, we had to use that. Problem was that sometimes when things are being changed, when things change, when things are being remodeled, retrofitted, and whatnot, if you if you have to install some new wires, and if you have to replace wiring in a way that some of the old wire that's existing that's not there, not going to be used, but you're going to have to pull new wires in there, please remove those old wires, those unused wires, because the most common problem with these is that people run new wires, but they don't remove the old wires. And when too much is happening, sometimes you can't even close the box. The communications people are the worst when it comes to that. They are excellent when it comes to some certain things, but everybody has a well, good and bad side. A lot of telecommunications people, they just leave the wires because, well, they're being rushed, and if somebody doesn't want to pay for removal of the old wires, you're just going to leave them there. But here's the problem. It just builds up, builds up, builds up until you reach the spot that you can't close the cover. And this just defeats the purpose, because the purpose of that is so you can have the wiring, and if you need to close the cover. Hospitals are quite common for using those. And that's what this thing looks like in action. All right, bus bar. Do I have that? Okay. Bus bar is, that's the last slide, by the way. Is it? Yes, it is. Is another way of doing things. Again, I'll go back to the Lego analogy. Bus bar is our pre-made sections with wiring in them sometimes, and they have couplers, so you join them and join the sections and join the sections, so installation looks like this. Quite often the bus bar is being used, and I lost the slide. I'm gonna have to find it and make sure I show this thing to you tomorrow when we're in person. Quite often they're being used in, well, situations like this here. Here's some sort of main distribution, bunch of main distribution panels in the electrical distribution room. But they're also being used in a smaller scale. And I'm gonna have to show you that one of the most common ways, more common ways, is using that in the modular furniture when you have those, well, popularly called cubicles. That form of connecting electrical wire sometimes can be applied. So you have the bottom section of the modular furniture. Notice you have a bunch of cubicles, but every cubicle has a electrical outlet, receptacle, has data outlets. Those things have to be installed somehow. Sometimes there's a raceway that is built in, and you can pull new wires and just do electrical installation. But quite often you're going to see those modular furniture sections provided with the bus bar. So you just join them. As you're joining the sections of the cubicles, you're also joining the bus bar in when it comes to the electrical section, and that's how things. Well, of course, it is made in a way that qualified person, excuse me, qualified person has to perform the task, right? But nevertheless, things are much easier. Yes, there's some troubleshooting involved sometimes, but bus bar is quite commonly used, and I'll show you a little bit more when it comes to doing this tomorrow. Right, so this is pretty much the last slide for this section. I hope that I trust that everybody is nicely refreshed and ready for more intake. And I wish you a happy and happy and productive second part of the semester, of the term. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow in person. Have a good one, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Out queue.